Alrighty, dude. What's going on, Mr. Cook?
What's up,
Luke
y'all?
Wicks? Yeah, we got a party in the office today.
Yeah.
Luke and Sam are sharing a microphone. So, say hi.
Hey guys, how's it going?
But yeah, we got Mr. Softy himself in the
In the
office
flesh,
today.
baby. Come on.
Come on, dude. We're excited for today's podcast. We're kind of gonna bounce off of the one that we did last week, or Luke and I did. I don't know when the heck I'm gonna actually post this sucker, but we talked about discerning the seasons, which was good. And if you haven't listened to that yet, then I encourage you to listen to it. But today we're gonna really talk about hope and expectation. Seeing through the storm that is COVID-19 and all the little difficult storms that we're going through right now. And truly, I'm like super blessed to have Sam here with us today, because this is a homie that's gone through a lot, and I've watched him cling to hope and have healthy expectations. And so it's a joy.
Yeah.
It's a joy to have this.
Stoked to be here.
Yeah, it's a joy to have him. So, and he by the way, he did test positive for COVID at some point.
Yep. Survivor.
He is a
I'm a survivor.
he is a he is a COVID survivor, dude.
Yeah.
Third one I know.
Really?
Yep. Fourth one I know.
Who? Me?
You, my mother, my friend John
JB?
Bottles,
John Bottles.
and I don't know if I can say the other person.
Fair enough.
So yeah, we're excited, but pretty much. We're gonna start a little bit heavy, but I hope by the end of it, since we are talking about hope, that we should be a little bit happier and lighter here at the end. But kind of a huge heart on why we wanted to do this sucker is because I feel like the part of the hardest part, I think, for this season with COVID-19 and all the craziness going on, is that it has felt like, and I don't know if you agree, Sam, but it's felt like one bad thing has led to another bad thing, which has led to another hard thing. And even when they're in between the hard things, it's still like confusing because there's like not a lot of clarity on what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
And really just kind of feel like as some of you are heading back to school, as we're heading into a new season, can't believe summer's already
I know.
close to being over.
It's
Like,
flying.
hurts my heart.
I know.
I need to fish more.
You and me both.
Come on,
Come on.
dude.
That's buggy.
Yeah, buggy, dude. So buggy. But before we enter into this next season, especially as you start heading into school, really just wanted to speak to you and just say that, like, there is a strong possibility that, like, as you head, and this isn't out of fear, like, this is like, I feel like out of the gentleness of Jesus that, like, just wants to really help shape our perspective. But, like, very well and very possibly could be heading into a tough season.
Right.
You know, like, there is a strong possibility that this next school year, this next work season, even just the things that are going on in our country, it could get a lot worse before it gets better.
Right.
It, like Luke said last week in the podcast, like, the beautiful thing is, and when we are going through wilderness seasons and tough seasons, we can look like on the future and know, like, even if it's dark, even if we feel like there's a gray cloud over us, like, we know Jesus is leading us somewhere.
Yeah.
But my goal and our goal in the midst of this podcast in particular is, okay, if there's a possibility, and even if it's not in this COVID season, in your own personal life, whatever stinking season you're going through, whether it's now or 5 years from now, like, how can we go through our wilderness season seeing Jesus? Right? How can we zoom out and how can we see that Jesus is actually leading us somewhere? Because one of the number one things that happens when we are in difficult, hard seasons is that we as Christians, we hold on to hope, we hold on to faith, we build up courage, and then what happens? Something hard comes, and then it keeps coming, and then it keeps coming, and it keeps getting worse, and then what happens? You're like, I just don't even want to hope anymore.
Right.
I don't want to have faith anymore. I feel like I keep getting let down. Like, this is the story of my life in a lot of areas. It's like, oh, a hard season will come and I'll feel like the Lord is just leading me into this season of like, I just got to build hope and build courage and build faith and hold on. And then bad thing happens.
Right.
Bad thing happens. Bad thing happens.
It's easy to do.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
it's super easy to do because I think it's really easy to have hope and have faith, right? But I also think it's equally as easy somewhere along the journey to attach that hope and faith to a circumstance as opposed to like a man, right?
Yep.
As opposed to attaching that hope to Jesus. And when we attach that hope to some sort of circumstantial outcome, it's setting us up to potentially be let down and fall into hopelessness because we were let down.
Yeah, this is the pattern we go through.
Right.
Right? Like, this is why people get depressed.
Yeah.
Like, people get depressed, good, God-fearing, on-fire, loving, amazing Christians, including myself, will go through a hard time. I build up hope, and I attach hope to an outcome.
Exactly.
Right? I attach hope to a specific result that I want.
Right.
And when that result that I want doesn't happen, I feel like God failed me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's not there. I feel like, and then this is another huge temptation, is I feel like I missed what God had for me.
Right.
Right? And that's not true. Like,
exactly.
It's not true. It's just hope, and hope is not in an outcome. It is not in a situation. Our hope is in Jesus, the man.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things is that happens for us in the temptation, we start a new school year, we start a new season. What happens? We build
up
these expectations, right? This is going to be the best school year of my life. This new job is going to be the best job. Oh my gosh, my mom or my dad encountered God one time. They're going to turn their life around for Jesus forever. Everything's going to be amazing from here on out. Then what happens? Crap hits the fan.
Yeah.
And we go, oh no, we missed what God had for us. No, you didn't. Like, you absolutely did not miss what God had for you. Our hope is in a man, and we don't know exactly what the outcome is. But we know that he works all things good for those who love him.
Mm-hmm.
You have a story that you can just share of just like, of a time where you've battled? Because I just feel like times like this, testimony is important, you know, like really important, because it's like we can hear this and like, oh, that sounds good. But like, do you have a story or some time in your life where you felt like where you had like, okay, I went through this hard season, but then it just got harder because my hope was misplaced. And then a season where you did go through it and you're like, oh, wow, I actually learned that like my hope is in Jesus, not in this outcome.
Yeah. Interestingly, I think I have a story where they happened kind of simultaneously.
At the same time, yeah.
I went through, attaching hope more to a man than an outcome or a circumstance is what got me through probably the hardest season of my life. But it took me getting there, right? It took me recognizing that my hope is in like these earthly things, that this relationship will end up working itself out, that I will be able to smooth everything out. And I remember there was a point in my life where, I was at the darkest place of my life. I had just found out that my marriage was falling apart, that there was just so many unknowns as to like, how is this going to play out?
Wow.
There were so many things.
Was it almost like you couldn't even find like an outcome it was like so dark that you like almost couldn't even see an outcome to
and
hold
honestly,
on to?
that's what it took though, unfortunately,
Totally.
for me to reach this place of like, I give up.
Wow.
I give up. And so I remember this specific instance, my marriage was falling apart. I had attached so much hope that if I take the right steps, I do the right things, I get myself into a healthier place, which was something that I truly wanted. But if I do those things, then all of these things are going to smooth themselves out. It's going to be okay because I've done the right things. And slowly but surely, I started to realize, like, my hope in those outcomes, like, that may not be the outcome that I run into.
Like you might not run into like your marriage being
right
reconciled.
Exactly. Which, come on, that's a hard reality.
100%.
And I remember, it was a specific night.
Wow.
Those of you that were up at college retreat up in McCall probably remember this from my story, but specific night in February where I just remember I got a specific bit of news that brought this to light, that things may not end up like I want them to end up. Yeah. And I just remember, like, that was the moment where I was like, okay, like, Lord, I don't know where you're at or what you have for me, but like, I give up.
Wow.
Like, I trust you. And what I experienced in that moment was that it was almost like, and I don't know if you guys did talk about it on here or not, but I heard Luke use the phrase like zoom out.
Yeah.
Like, that's truly what happened in that moment, is something zoomed out and I was given this big picture perspective where I recognize, like, regardless of how things play out situationally, regardless of how relationships play out or like what people think even, right? Regardless, I'm going to be okay. And I think what was happening is I was beginning to attach my hope more in Jesus than I was the outcome of like how these things might play out.
You got to a place of surrender.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think wilderness seasons, and I want Luke to chime in on whatever the heck he's got going on in his brain right now, because it's filled with wisdom.
Yeah. Who knows?
The mystic legends. But, oh shoot, what was I going to say? Dang it. I got it. Wilderness. Oftentimes, thank you, Luke, the greatest intern ever.
Yeah.
But really, the wilderness season, I believe God takes us through to expose where we haven't surrendered.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the time, but most of the time, right? And this is what we see, and I've used it 100 times in this podcast so far, is this is exactly what we see in the Israelites in Egypt, right? Like, I truly don't believe that God's plan when they were on their way to the promised land was for them to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. Like, I don't believe that was his intention. Like, oh, I want my people to just walk in a darn circle for 40 years doing nothing. But he said what he did want, though, is he wanted every other god and idol that they had in their life, he wanted it to die. Like, and so he's like, if you have to wander in the wilderness for I promised you the promised land. Yeah. But you ain't going to the promised land until we rid yourselves of Egypt, because Egypt was still inside of them. Mm-hmm. The slave mentality was still inside of them. And they kept wanting to worship things and gods and idols that made them feel this sense of comfort. And he's like, no. I want your complete and utter self. Like, I want everything. And like, this is why I love, like, literally, and it's probably because like I come from a family of like addicts and like stuff, but that's what we like. Sam and I both have a history with addiction, right? And so like we say like rock, we wait for rock bottom.
Yeah, it was just coming to mind, right? Like, right? You hear that all the time, is rock bottom, right? You got to reach your rock bottom. And I forget who told it to me, but it makes so much sense. Is everyone's rock bottom, quote unquote, is different. Yeah. Right. It's not.
This is so good.
It's different.
Listen.
And it's not. Your life does not need to fall apart for you to hit rock bottom. Like, rock bottom in some ways is a choice, because you get to choose when you say, okay, I give up. Oh, yeah. Your give up moment is up to you. Yep. Right. And so
hopefully it doesn't reach rock bottom.
Exactly. Well, and it could, rock look bottom. I heard someone say one time, rock bottom is when you choose to put the shovel down.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean? And so
I like that.
As you choose to, look up instead of out and say like, I truly like, okay, these circumstances, these emotions, these relationships, I give up. Like I give unto you like the result of whatever's going to happen. Yeah. That's where freedom comes. That's where peace comes. And that's where you're able to attach hope.
And that's hope. That is
hope.
hope.
It's hope, right? You know? And so
that's so good. It's so good. And yeah. And so like stories of addiction and like these extreme rock bottoms, like you've heard in my testimony and Sam's testimony, like my prayer is that you don't go there.
Absolutely.
But the truth and the reality is, right, is like there are so many times even within your singular day where you're like, I want to give up.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel like you want to give up.
Right.
But not like give up on God, give up on trying to strive.
Yeah, giving up is not synonymous with hopelessness.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Giving up is just giving up control. Just saying like, I am not going to try and control the outcome.
So good. So good. Big Lukey, you got any thoughts? He's got something.
The wheels are turning.
We're swapping the mics.
The first thing that came to mind when we first started talking was and going back to like the Jewish culture. We talked about this the other day in the office where everything, if you look at the pattern of the week, the pattern of creation, everything starts from like this rest, or like the Sabbath is the first day of the week. Yeah. You rest on the first day of the week, or when you go to sleep, you're starting the next day. You're not ending the day before.
Yeah, starting from a place of rest.
And so every day you've rested enough, and the Lord has given you enough rest to complete the end of the journey for that day. And so it's actually my New Year's resolution was to change my mindset to let my sleep be the beginning of my day, so that when I get to the end of my day, I'm not saying, oh, I can't wait to fall asleep because I'm just like waiting for the next time. But like I've already had enough. Like I've been given my daily bread. And so entering into this time of potential like struggle in seasons, it's something where we need to like realize we've been given our daily bread.
Yeah, it's so good.
And the hope doesn't even necessarily need to be in this future outcome, but the hope can be in this place where God has taken us from, and if He's taken us from there, and if He's given us rest, then we don't have anywhere to be. Yeah. And we just have to be where we are. So where He's leading us.
Yeah, it's so good, and really, right? It's like, it's the tension of zooming out, and the daily bread. Like it's truly the tension of both, right? It's like we get through our wilderness seasons or the storms or whatever the heck you want to call it, right? Is okay. I realize I have to zoom out, and I have to realize that God is leading me somewhere, and I don't have control of the outcome. I can steward my heart now, and how I steward my heart now is by coming and feasting on my daily bread, right? So we need the zooming out for our perspective to see that like God is in control, that God is leading us, that God is our source of hope. Our hope is not in an outcome. Our hope is in Jesus. Our hope is in a man. And so we zoom out. We see that no matter how hard it is, no matter how hard school is, no matter what's going on in your family, you zoom out. God is in control. God is here. He is leading us. But then we don't just stay there, because if we just stay there, right, then we're probably going to like become lazy. You're not present. Yeah. You're like, oh, everything's good. Because a huge thing, another like good thing to think about is I always have a little bit of red flags, and I'm hesitant, caution flags. I'm trying to not use red flags anymore. Sam knows this. We won't talk about why. But Nope. So some caution flags for me is when I know somebody is going through a really hard season, right? Is when I know they're going through a really tough time, whatever it is. And they're just like, I'm good. Like, I promise I'm good. Like, everything's awesome. Like, I'm like, okay, you're probably zooming out a little bit too much here and not living in reality, right? You're probably so zoomed out. And yes, God has you. Yes, He's building something powerful in you. Yes, there's probably an element of you that's good, but when life's hard, it's supposed to be hard. Like, and we have to be vulnerable, and like, hey, we come and we get our daily bread and we feast on Him, right? but that doesn't ignore the pain and the difficulty and the suffering of what's going on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You got something?
Well, I was gonna add to it maybe like a visual.
Yeah.
It's actually funny. I had a dream this morning that I didn't get to finish telling you about, but
Yeah.
so basically in this
all
dream
over
I
the
was
place today.
headed down. I was in like San Francisco area. It doesn't really matter. I was going down into this cave with people I knew, and at the bottom of the cave there was like this recreational area where you could like rock wall climb, and then there was also a place where people were doing yoga or something. And I went over to the yoga. Sorry, this might get weird. Warning, we can cut this out.
Yeah. This is a dream.
Yeah, a dream. But we were going to. I went over to the yoga place because I was like, yeah, I could use a stretch, you know. And then all of a sudden, the yoga studio turned into this court where I was the what is it, the plaintiff, or like
You were on trial.
I was on
That's what you're
trial,
saying.
yeah. And these people were bringing accusations of things that I'd done or things that I've failed at, or even things that I was worried that I was going to fail at, in just this season of pressure,
Yeah.
and where I've let myself feel the pressure, like let the pressure get at me. And in this dream, there's this one moment where I just kind of felt the Lord like telling me to look up.
Wow.
And so I looked up, and like I didn't even really I didn't really have to see anything, or like I just remember in this dream it was this small little zoom out moment,
Right.
and then it was also this zoom back in moment where I came back with peace, and I was like,
so good.
I was like not sober on peace,
Right.
you know,
Totally.
and I was like, it was still weird and it still hurt and
hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
so hard, but
Accusations are always fun.
yeah, all I had, like what I had was just this peace. I was like, yeah, like all this stuff is going on, but I know where I am and who I am.
Good, Luke.
But yeah,
That's a beautiful image. Yeah, that's a beautiful image. So it's important, you know, you guys, as we're navigating and going on this journey of school, we don't know. Look, for me too, man, like this is hard. You know, this is hard. It's hard on a corporate level. It's hard on an occupational level. It's like, I want to just be with you all the time. And
Right.
but we just have to hold with our arms wide open and just saying, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We come, we get our daily bread, and let's just be really good in this season, in the school year, wherever you're going right now. I almost feel like this podcast isn't even just for the kids, but just for all, like whoever's listening. Just like, let's just make sure that our hope isn't attached to specific outcomes, you know, because it can lead us to constantly feeling disappointed, and then that just leads us down this spiral that's just no bueno, you know. And so one other thing, and this is kind of a little bit of a tangent, that I just want to encourage you in this season, as we're calling this podcast "Sing Through the Storm." As we are in this storm, as we are in this trial and difficulty, I just really want to encourage you to embrace vulnerability, like in this time, like to truly embrace being who you are, and be honest with where you're at. You have permission. You have permission to be you and to feel everything that you're feeling, you know, and
Absolutely.
and a lot of the times I think like wilderness seasons can be extended because of the lack of vulnerability. And I'm not even talking about just vulnerability with others, but just vulnerability, even like being honest with yourself of like, this is hard, you know,
Yeah.
and this is difficult,
Yeah.
and just being honest. And because God uses these times in these wilderness to show areas in our life that need to be yielded to him. And there is such power in like opening up and being honest. You can ask Sam, man. Like I text this homie probably 2-3 days a week, and I'm just like, dude, like I'm having a rough one today.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I get emotional, man, because it's like life's hard, you know, life is hard and it's difficult. And even for me right now, your leader, right? Like I'm going through it also, you know, going through it. And the thing that has helped me feel so known and seen and understood in this time is by reaching out to my close friends, those who are in my inner circle, and just being like honest with like, yeah, dude, Sam, I feel weak today, man. Like I'm bleeding today. Yeah. And it helps you realize the season you're in and helps you realize what you actually need.
Yeah. I think vulnerability is something, I think you said it very well. Like you can't be vulnerable with others until you're realistic and vulnerable with yourself. Yeah. You have to be in tune and in step with like, what are my emotions today? Like, what is this discomfort that I'm feeling? And then at that point, it is vital, in my opinion, to then reach out. I think.
Yes, 100%.
I think, and it's interesting that you say that lack of vulnerability can prolong wilderness seasons, because I think wilderness seasons can oftentimes isolate us. Yeah. You know, and so by reaching out, bringing other people into what you're experiencing and what you're feeling, it counteracts kind of that isolation that you kind of naturally want to be pushed into when you're in that wilderness, when you feel lost and you feel alone, you know. And so, yeah, just a bit of encouragement, you know, like reach out, reach out to people. I know it's maybe hard depending on where you're at, you know, to maybe meet up with people, but you know, FaceTime's a great tool, you know, and
text message too.
Right.
Simple,
right.
Man.
Yeah.
It's like, cause the power of prayer, I'll tell you what, one of the coolest things, and there's been quite a few times it's happened in my life where I have literally felt the prayers of others after I've been vulnerable with them, where I get emotional, but it's like, I'll text 4 or 5 people in a day and just be like, hey, it's hard. I'm not doing good right now. Like, you know, and I literally will, by the end of the day, be like, what the heck? Like, what is this? And I'm like, and I literally have like 4 or 5 text messages. I've been praying for you. I've been fighting for you. God's, you know, and it's a blessing. It's a blessing. So don't take your community for granted, you know, bear down, hunker in. And vulnerability also will protect you from numbing out. Exactly. Right? Because right, when pain and difficulty comes, we want to go to a substance, a thing to numb out. But if I can first, and I'm feeling pain and suffering, if I can first go to somebody, be vulnerable and honest with how I'm feeling, and then share that with others, I find that it takes the temptation away to numb out.
Yeah, I think some of the most freeing moments that I've ever experienced are right after very uncomfortable conversations. You know, because being vulnerable, in all honesty, is not easy.
No.
It's so uncomfortable. But I have experienced some of the most liberating moments of my life when I've made that decision to be a little bit uncomfortable, and either, you know, sometimes it involves admitting something that's causing some shame inside of you, or having an uncomfortable conversation with someone, you know, about, you know, relational dynamics that you're uncomfortable with, whatever it is. I think uncomfortable conversation oftentimes leads to liberation of whatever you're feeling.
So good.
One thing that comes to mind with that is how Paul talks about in the Bible, like when he says, now I get to share with you like what's been on my heart so that my joy may become complete. I think that works. Number one, like when you share joy with someone, it's like it just amplifies it. Yeah. Like when you're able to share joy, but also when you, I think when you share vulnerability or like share hurt, like it, I don't want to say it doesn't lessen it necessarily, but it makes the yoke easier and the burden lighter in ways like where it feels like you got another person helping you carry. And so it's like that same thought of sharing, so that your joy may become complete.
So good, dude. Come on. Because that's what we're going after, right? There is joy in the midst of the season. There is hope in the midst of the season. And it is hard in the midst of this season.
Yep.
And so we press on, full of hope, full of love, You got a scripture for us now, Bacchus?
As I was kind of thinking about all this, Proverbs 24:12 through 14. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You're down.
Just says, if you say, behold, we did not know this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who keeps watch over your soul know it? And will he not repay man according to his works? My son, eat honey, for it is good, and the drippings of the honeycomb are sweet to your taste. Know that wisdom is such to your soul. If you find it, there will be a future, and your hope will not be cut off.
So good.
You know, and so
Come on.
I think just kind of with everything that we've been talking about, I think that to me just kind of sums up this idea that if you don't attach your hope to things that are circumstantial or of the earth, your hope will not be cut off. It doesn't mean it's going to make it easier. It doesn't mean that it's going to make the journey less painful, right?
Yeah.
But you won't, or shorter, right? But it's your hope, you're not going to lose hope. You're not going to fall into this pit of hopelessness where then the pain becomes the focal point, right? And you become more prone to numbing and wanting to escape and isolate and run, right? Hope is a great antidote to those things. You know, it brings those positive feelings. It brings peace, right?
Good. Come on. That fires me up.
Yeah, the boys are real fired up.
Yeah, the boys are fired up now. Alrighty, we're going to go float the river.
See y'all there.
Love ya. Praying for you.
Miss you guys.
Yeah. Be blessed. Oh, reach out if you ever need anything.
Yeah, we're here.
So here.
We are here.